On this episode of the Pit Therapy Podcast, we talk about the Celtic punk band Dropkick Murphys. We talk about their influence in Boston and how they are one of the best bands to leverage a non-rock instrument. Thanks for jumping on, and let's open this pit up.
Somebody hit somebody!
What's up, everyone? Thanks for jumping on to this episode of the Pit Therapy Podcast with Kyle is my name, and Trevor. So what's up, man? How you doing?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. It's you almost forget your name there. Almost forget your name like the Grammys.
Well, no, I don't know that people know us, so it's like when I talk, do they know it's me, or do they just think like that's one of the guys?
I don't know. That's a good question. We're almost 20 episodes into this now. Hopefully our voices are distinct enough.
Yeah.
But, maybe we have to start getting on social media with our faces other than just that one post I made.
Anyways, yes. So how you been, man? What have you been up to the last little bit?
Dude, honestly, not too much. I ran that half marathon over the weekend and straight up, it kicked my butt, man. Like, have you
You're
ever...
still sore.
I can finally walk like normal today. Like straight up. So I ran it Saturday. Sunday was brutal. I was old man shuffling around my house. Monday, same thing. And then Tuesday, I finally was able to kind of move around. I actually mowed my lawn, but I think mowing my lawn kind of re-aggravated. So it's been a bit more shuffling today.
Yeah.
But I'm finally kind of moving around and stuff. Have you ever not worked out long enough, and then when you go focus heavy on one specific muscle group, it just seizes up?
Sure. I mean, I'm not the most fitness guy here, so not really. I know what you're talking about.
My first recollection of doing this was about 6-7 years ago. I was never a lifting guy. We played sports in high school. I always was I guess my cardio was fine, but I was never lifting for strength. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I started working with my cousin. He takes me to the gym and immediately just throws me on arms. And I did way too much to the point where I was walking around with my hands in L's and couldn't extend my arms all the way. That's what just happened to my legs, though. I couldn't bend my knees. I was just shuffled, moving my hips and swinging my feet forward, kind of thing to move around my house. So,
I mean,
but no, we're back.
I feel like you deserve it for running a half marathon. So,
listen,
I'm glad you're feeling a little better.
I appreciate that. I appreciate it. And listen, I will never pay for one again. I probably will run one again, but I'm not going to pay $100 to do that again.
Oh, I didn't know you had to. Look, man, I was going to say there's cheaper ways. So, I mean, you could pay me $50 and I'll just come hit your legs with a
Have you seen, I don't remember what his name is, but he's just kind of one of those guys who just does stupid stunts kind of thing. He's a bodybuilder and he goes and he works out with Wonder Boy, the MMA fighter. And
no, I haven't seen those.
Okay. So MMA fighters deaden their shins and stuff will just take hard sticks and scrape them on their shins.
Oh my gosh.
And he goes and he does it. And there's one point where he's 3 in a row. And the guy's raking his shins and he's jumping up cussing and stuff. But then Wonder Boy, he's kick me in the thigh. And Wonder Boy's kicking him in the thigh and just drops him. It's insane. Crazy. But
so the Rugby World Cup is going on right now. Yeah. I'm a huge rugby fan. And there's times in your life where you feel tough, right? That you're or you think you're tough, at least,
every show we go to.
Sure. I'm just saying every guy goes through this. And if you say you don't, you're lying. But every guy goes through a point where they look in the mirror and they're yeah, I'm tough.
Yeah, for sure.
And then you watch people play in the Rugby World Cup and you're never again. I will never say that again. I will never be as tough as those dudes.
It is
unbelievable how insane those guys are because they're jacked, man. They're yoked and they run so fast and hard and there's no pads and they just are straight up slamming into each other and it's crazy. I mean, if you're bored this weekend or whatever, go watch the Rugby World Cup, dude, because it is crazy entertaining and those dudes are just specimens, man.
It's crazy. People are so just I just can't fathom being that physical or
Yeah.
like jacked. Like you
I
said, I
know.
can't imagine being that jacked. And obviously we have Josh who joins us all the time who can lift a crap ton, but I don't think he can bull rush
No.
someone the same like way a rugby player does.
Yeah, he'd
So
probably get broken.
insane amount of cardio, strength, lifting. Like
Yeah.
it's just ridiculous. I mean, that's the one thing about, again, Utah and the Polynesian culture and everyone who's part of it. So we have rugby, but then also our universities, the University of Utah, BYU, Utah State, Weber State, all of them, just like in football and sports, it's just crazy how physical these guys are.
Yeah.
So it's cool.
Yeah, it's crazy. But the other thing I wanted to bring up because I wanted to ask you about some new music because there's been some sweet albums that have dropped
Yeah.
recently. But before we get into that, man, last night I watched the MTV Video Music Awards or whatever they're called.
Okay.
Have you watched anything like that recently? I know we made the joke about the Grammys. I actually know the name of this one. But
no, I haven't.
I watched it last night and me and my wife, like, I just turned and looked at her and I was like, what happened? Like, what happened to music and like the industry and all this stuff? Cause these, like the rap people that got up, I was like, this is not rap. Like these guys are just mumbling and they're not even saying anything. It was the most bizarre thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Like all the people getting up in just the like weirdest, most bizarre outfits. Like one lady gets up there and she turns around and like the butt cheeks of her pants were cut out and she's like, look at my ass. And like I was just like, what are we doing? Like,
dude,
what are we doing? There's this guy that performed. He's from Mexico. His name's Peso Pluma.
Okay.
You gotta go look this guy up, man. It's the worst thing I've ever heard. And his haircut, you remember those car commercials where they would like show off the suspension and they're driving over like all the bumps?
Yeah.
He got his haircut in a car doing that. It's insane. But listening to them sing and a lot of the music up there, I was just like, man, what happened? Like, I know I've been out of like the music scene for a little bit, but like, holy cow, dude.
Dude, it's all about social media. Like, and this is what we talked about. It would be amazing to see some of the bands that we grew up listening to. Scary Kids is a prime example of how much social media may have blown them up. Because like Scary Kids was always the funniest band. They did the funniest music videos. Their tours were always fun, over the top and stuff. But I think that they could have super exploded in the scene with social media. And that's all music is today. Who does the best social media? I mean, the freaking Island Boys were like the number one thing for what, 2 months?
Yeah.
And that is the worst trash I've ever heard.
Yeah. No, dude, it was like kind of late. It was like 10:30 last night. And I just looked at my wife and I was like, I can't watch this. Like, I can't do this. Like, this is just straight garbage. And I feel bad because like people actually like him, but it's like, what are you doing? And like, I know I poke fun at like Taylor Swift and stuff, but at least she makes actual music that you can understand and doesn't sound like somebody's like on meth and then, hitting a keyboard to make beats and stuff and just screaming. Like it was some of the most bizarre, weirdest things I've ever seen. And it sucks because I think we all used to watch like MTV back in the day and they used to have good artists and like, it wasn't this trash that I watched yesterday, dude. It was crazy.
But I mean, they also have to just keep up on the trends, whether they like it or not. That's what's popular today. And so if you're going to be a network show, you've got to bring that on.
Yeah. I'm not necessarily blaming MTV. I mean, yeah, I do feel like they've sold out for sure.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, I'm not necessarily
music.
Right. And I'm not blaming them necessarily for the trash that I saw last night.
Okay.
It's mostly society.
Sure.
It's people. It's us.
Sure.
Like, we have strayed so far from the path that like, and this Peso Pluma guy, he's from Mexico. My wife is a Latina and she leaned over to me and she's like, us Latinos got to do better. She's like, we should not have made this guy famous. We need to do better. We need to reach higher. And I was like, seriously,
that's awesome.
Dude.
No, I'll have to go give him a listen and see how bad it is. But like I said, I can just imagine knowing the kind of music that's popular today. I can only imagine what it
Yeah.
is just in Spanish instead.
Oh
So
yeah, it's rough, dude. Anyways, so new music. You've been listening to anything good? Any new albums? You know, the drop new stuff.
bro, you're gonna take us on a whirlwind with the Dropkick Murphys today. I had 12 hours of Dropkick Murphys to get through over the last few days. So no, I haven't had much time for new music
Okay.
other than that garbage you sent me yesterday.
It
But
definitely
you
wasn't garbage.
know.
I'm not entirely convinced that you like music, so because I send you
That
guys
was
good music, you don't like it. It's not like I'm sending you like crap music. Like it's good music.
it was the ultimate like knockoff band of the Beastie Boys I've ever heard.
I mean, they did sound a lot like Beastie Boys, but I like that. I'm okay with that because nobody really does that type of like hip hop. So
It's
let's
because there's
go.
only one Beastie Boys. Can't be multiple.
Well, now there's Beastie Toddlers or something. I don't know because I don't know. I like the album. I don't even remember what they were called, but the album's called Punk Tactics. I think is it or
Uh,
that's the song.
no,
I don't know.
that was the album and the song, I think.
Okay. Well, anyways, some
Joey,
bands.
Valence, and Bray.
Yeah, go check them
That's
out.
it.
They're sick. Seriously, go check them out.
Or
Not you
don't.
though, because
You don't
you.
need
No.
to.
Anyways, though, With Honor dropped a new album.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Angel Dust. Have you listened to them?
I have listened to Angel Dust.
So
Not a ton, but I
it's the
have.
vocalist from Trapped Under Ice,
Yep.
and that new album's awesome. It's super different from Trapped Under Ice, so don't think you're going to listen to like
Right.
another Trapped Under Ice. This is quite a bit different. And then the new Hawthorne Heights EP
I have listened to some of that.
slays. It's
Yeah.
good.
But I've always been a fan of Hawthorne. Like I've always really liked them, and even during the most emo years of Hawthorne Heights, I was always a big fan. So, like, this new music's good. It's
Yeah.
really good.
I don't know. Hawthorne Heights is one of those bands that's like it's been kind of like phases for me because I liked them when they first came out, and then I felt like I was too cool for them. And then
Yeah.
this EP and their album before this one, their last album, is really good. And I was like, shoot, like maybe I shouldn't have felt that way about Hawthorne Heights. This is actually really good.
I mean, there was reason, right?
Sure.
Like when you're singing about cut my wrist and black my eyes, like there's reason to feel like you're probably better than that. But if only you were lonely, that album with saying sorry was the song. Cheesiest, cheesiest lyrics ever, right?
Yeah.
But you can't tell me every like at least like post-hardcore kid didn't have that album in their car, and when they were alone, they were the ones singing "Say Goodbye This Time."
Yeah.
Is the only way I'm saying sorry.
No, it's true.
I liked it. I was a fan. I had a cousin who really liked it, so we jammed to it together all the time. So
That's cool. But go check out their new stuff if anyone's listening and they haven't yet. It's definitely worth it. So cool. All right. Well, we're going to get into the band that we're talking about this week, and it's good old Dropkick Murphys.
yes,
So
sir.
you said you put in like 12 hours listening to them. Was it some of the best 12 hours of your life?
It was some of the most repetitive 12 hours of my life.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean it's bad, right?
Listen, I like Dropkick. I like Flogging Molly. I like the Swellers. Like I like Celtic punk, right? I like this stuff, but it has to be done in doses. Like 12 hours straight of it, it got a little much. I'll
Yeah,
be
but
honest.
I've listened to Dropkick Murphys probably since The Gang's All Here.
Okay.
I think I had to go back to Do or Die, which was their first album, which was like 1998. 1999, okay. Gang's All Here. I'm pretty sure that's when I started listening to them. What's funny is my mom was like a huge fan of Dropkick and like had all the albums and stuff too. Those first like 3-ish albums forward, there's not I don't feel like it's a ton of like Celtic influence. Like sure there's bagpipes, but it's definitely more punk focused.
Oh, for sure. Very, very leaning into the punk. And I think that it's really exemplified on Do or Die, that very first album. And I think that part of the reason for that is that initial record was produced by Lars Fredriksson of Rancid. He was the
Okay.
one who very first produced that. And Rancid is as punk as you get, right? So, yeah, Do or Die is, well, that's not even true. The Gangs All Here I thought was even more punk than Do or Die. Like,
Right.
what do you think between those two?
I mean, I like the Gangs All Here more,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Because the Gangs All Here, is that when they introduced the second singer?
Yes. Yeah, the first guy was only on Do or Die.
Yeah, so I feel like Do or Die is definitely more punk. His vocals are definitely like real by definition punk vocals.
See, and that initial album, The Gangs All Here with Al, I thought he had very aggressive punk vocals. Like he has a very punk tone
That's
for what I
fair.
was doing. And he was in the Bruisers, another punk
Yeah.
band, before coming here. So he definitely morphed throughout his time in Dropkick, and he's definitely lightened up on that punk influence and actually tries to sing a bit more. But I actually thought his vocals on The Gangs All Here were heavier than Do or Die. Do
Okay.
or Die was honestly, it was kind of monotone. Like he kind of sounded the same throughout the whole
I
album.
mean, that's like a lot of what punk is, though.
I know, but you can have some variation. I think that Dropkick actually had their variation in multiple singers.
Yeah,
I think that that's where they got their
sure.
biggest variation.
Dropkick Murphys formed in, I think, 1996. I think we all know where they originate from, which is Massachusetts. I don't think it's actually Boston proper, though. I think it's like a
Quincy.
Quincy. I don't know if that's like a suburb or a
Yeah,
like
it's
an
close
area
enough. I
close
mean,
enough.
is there any city in Boston that's not, or excuse me, in Massachusetts that's not Boston?
You have like Cape Cod and stuff, don't you?
I guess that's true.
I don't know. I'm not super familiar with that area,
But
but
if
yeah.
you say
Anyway, so they're
Massachusetts, it's Boston.
sure they're from the Boston area. Big roots, in the scene there. Still
Yeah.
very involved in the scene in Boston and in the music there. Categorized as Celtic punk. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about people from Boston playing music that's from a different country?
It's not technically from a different country, right? This is kind of their own way to kind of express Celtic influence. So I mean, reading just up on them kind of thing, basically they just said we grew up on Irish music, right? It's part of what was in our households, it's part of what we heard around town, it was at all the pubs and all the bars kind of thing. So it was kind of natural that it was going to make its way into our music. But on top of that, we had like firefighter and police friends who played bagpipes who wanted to do something. So we put them on it. So it was just kind of a way for them to like mess around with their friends more than anything. And then it took a life of its own.
Yeah. I mean, that is like a very American thing.
Oh,
We might be one of the only countries that when you ask someone where they're from, they talk about their heritage and not where they're actually from. You know what I mean?
yeah, that's true. That's true. I
And I
see what
mean,
you're
it,
saying.
it drives my wife insane because my wife's born United States,
Yeah.
but people ask her all the time, where are you from? And she's like, California. And they're like, no, like, where are you from? And I was like, California. It's California, not California, like, but I mean, like, I get what they're trying to say because they're wanting to know like where her heritage is because her family's from Central America. Right.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
but that is such a weird American concept of like, when you ask someone, and I try to explain that to her, like, white people, when we ask where you're from, we're not really talking about like, where are you from in the US? We want to know your heritage because we take a lot of pride in that, right?
Right.
But we might be the only country that really does that.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, but I don't know if you can say that about Dropkick because there's white as white can be. You know what I mean? So
I know.
no one's walking up to them and they're saying, where are you from? Asking,
no.
they're like, are you Irish or not? Like,
Right.
they're just assuming, right?
Yeah.
So,
But what's funny, so like I did some like reading on this and I feel like it's like 75-25. I think 75% of the people don't care.
okay.
Right? They understand what they're doing. They know it's just good music. They're just out there having fun. They care about where they come from. Awesome. Then there's like the 25% that just like hate them for it.
Yeah.
That say it's the dumb. And honestly, from what I read, most of it was like other Americans that are like, no, they're stupid. Like they're culture appropriating Irish culture. I don't know that I read anything from anyone from Ireland that actually cared.
Yeah. Like I literally Googled probably the same thing you did. I put, does Ireland like Dropkick Murphys? And like one of the first websites I came, it's Irish studies of some crap, right? And it's an opinion article, but they just go off on them. They go off on how they have fake Irish accents, how they're actually propagating like an Irish stereotype of fighting and alcoholism and all this stuff. And like they're like adamantly against the Dropkick Murphys. Now, that being said, this website is called Irish Studies, and it's probably an American writing it. Yeah. Like, let's be honest, like you're propagating by being on irishstudies.com or whatever the website is, and then spouting off. Yeah. So
I just, like I'm a huge fan of Conan O'Brien. Conan O'Brien touts about how he's Irish, and he's not. He's like second or third generation American.
Sure.
Right. So, but to him, he's Irish.
Sure.
And he pokes fun at that all the time. And he talks about being Catholic, Irish Catholic, being an alcoholic,
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe that's like a super prevalent thing in Boston to really have that like Irish pride, maybe, but I live down in Texas, and it's like Latin American influence is huge down here.
Sure.
And even like all the white people down here, like a lot of like my neighbors grow their own jalapenos, and they're like as white as white, but they eat Tex-Mex and like Latin American food and eat like chilies, like eat peppers, and it's, so it's like, that's a Texas thing. Like I would go outside of Texas and be like, where are the peppers?
Sure.
Where's the salsa? Like that's what we do down here.
Sure.
So I don't personally have a problem with Dropkick Murphys. I think it's fine. I don't think they've ever claimed to be Irish. They wear the Boston, tag proud and stuff. Sure. And there's a lot of rich Irish history from Boston. So sure. I'm cool with it.
I think the only thing that I have a little problem with is the attempting to sound Irish, right? Like they have a lot of...
Do they though?
Oh yeah. You listen to an interview with them versus like they're singing, and they amp up the Irish influence quite a bit. Are you sure
it's not just like a thick Boston accent?
Yeah. Boston. Listen pretty closely. It's Irish. And here's the best way to actually pair it off. Go listen to Flogging Molly versus go listen to Dropkick and see how closely they say some of the phrases and things like that. Flogging Molly, their singer is born and raised in Dublin. So he is Irish. And it's pretty imitating is the word I'm looking for, that they're trying to do. And I think you hear it more on like some of the slower songs, some of the folky songs, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Versus the punk songs. But
yeah,
I think they try to a bit.
Okay. A couple other things that I thought were interesting about this band. So they've been featured on so much stuff.
Everything.
Like Boston Red Sox play their song almost at every home game. They were on The Departed.
Yeah.
Joe Biden walked out to a song from them. A couple Republican guys in like Wisconsin did that, and Dropkick called them out for it.
Yep.
And I mean, again, we're not political, but I just think it's funny when that happens because it seemed to have happened a lot in the last few years. So
this is what I find funny. I find funny that people don't do their research beforehand.
Exactly.
Like, that's what's funny, right? Because like if you research the Dropkick Murphys at all, you will know that your whole political campaign that you're running off of
goes against everything they believe in.
They're standing for, right? So it's just like sure, it's a song, like first and foremost, but they are a very active band. They're a very politically active band. Like, know what you're trying to do. And whoever that little intern was who picked that song probably should get fired.
Or he did it on purpose and should get a raise. So
maybe, sure. But no, exactly. I saw that and I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah. So they are very, very politically oriented. One thing, and again, we're not, this isn't a political podcast, but I think we can all agree on one thing. And there was a neo Nazi group that posted a video online using one of their songs.
Yeah.
It was like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, Dropkick called them out and said, our music will never be affiliated with neo Nazis. Don't
Right.
do that again. Well, the neo Nazis replied back to him and said, tell us where you're at and
Sure.
let's figure this out or whatever. Well, and these guys are like in their 40s, right?
Maybe probably older than that. I
They
mean,
post
98 was the first
okay.
album.
So pushing 50 at least,
Yeah.
right? Well, they posted their location and said, we're waiting for you.
Sure.
And I just want to say, like, respect to a band like that that's political, that knows where they stand and doesn't shy away from that.
Listen, growing up in South Boston, though, like these guys know how to fight. Like they put
Yeah.
in their music videos and stuff like that. Like, let's be honest, these guys have been in probably a scrap or two in
Oh,
their
100.
lives.
Well, so
So
there's a video of them where they brought people on stage
yeah.
and somebody was doing a Nazi salute up there and their bass player smashed him with his bass.
Oh man. Yeah. Like good on them, right? Like the oi genre, which they're also classified in,
Yeah.
has a lot of ties to the skinhead movement. And skinhead has been affiliated with neo-Nazism, with white supremacy, all of that kind of stuff. Skinhead is a very punk thing. It has a long tradition back in the 70s. Believe me, I am not a punk. I don't know all of the history behind it, but I do know that skinhead unfortunately has taken on a negative connotation because of some of these groups that have associated with it. And it is unfortunate, but there's bands like Dropkick, there's other bands that use that skinhead moniker as part of their music, as part of the punk movement. And,
Yeah. I don't know that you can talk about punk music and not talk about skinhead culture.
right.
And, I've actually done a decent amount of research on this as well. So there's two types of skinheads. There's traditional skinheads, which are very much not racist.
Working
They're not
class.
exactly. It was a movement started around working class that included people of all races, ethnicities, all that stuff, right? There's the group that is affiliated with racism are called boneheads,
Okay.
not skinheads. So a
Okay.
true skinhead is not racist. A bonehead is the racist group. They used to get in like huge fights and stuff, right? And you would know who was on what side by the color of your laces on your military boots.
Oh, really?
I think if they were white laces, then you were a bonehead.
Okay.
And if they were like a yellow lace color, then you were a traditional skinhead. And
Okay.
you'd go to shows, and if you wore the wrong color of, depending on what side you were on, if you wore the wrong color laces, you're getting jumped.
Sure. Sure.
So,
and I think it's unfortunate that part of that probably more racist connotation of skinhead was a lot of it was influenced by like American History X, some of these other like movies and stuff where they talk about skinheads and it's all about a racist movie. You know what I mean? Like they just get grouped in.
yeah.
And so like, it's really weird that it happened that way, but I mean that's what's always going to happen.
Yeah.
People are going to use things for whatever political agenda they have.
I think it's important because I mean, in Do or Die, they have a song called "Skinhead" on the MBTA, and
Exactly.
I mean, by definition, this is a very punk band. They like you said, they're from South Boston. They've scrapped. They are pro union. They're pro, they're pro rights. They're pro all this stuff.
Exactly.
And I want to make sure we clarify on a band like this where they stand with some of the real big issues that we've seen in the world in the last 5-ish years, So.
Exactly. And I think on top of that, I don't think it's as much these days, but I was reading the hardtimes.net, that kind of comedy website that they do funny
Yeah, it's
articles and stuff like that.
one of the greatest websites out there right now.
If you haven't been on there, hop on there and read some of the things, but it's really hilarious. And some guys talking about being a proud Bostonian American taking great pride in his Irish heritage. And, he makes reference to Boston being racist. You know what I mean? Like it was part of the culture back in Boston back in the day. Like that was part of the culture and stuff like that. And the Dropkick Murphys are actually a great band to help push forward
Yeah.
that this isn't a good thing anymore. Like we're beyond that. It's way past time that we got to let a lot of this stuff go. And sure, we can claim skinhead. We're not racist.
Yeah.
And you guys, you are who are racist. You're not part of us.
You're not welcome
So
here. Yep.
exactly.
And
So
honestly, that's
appreciate
so,
that.
I mean, growing up in the hardcore scene that we did, same attitude,
Yeah.
same
Yep.
attitude. So I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've said it before. I'm grateful to be part of a scene that's very inclusive. As
Exactly.
long as you're not a racist, not a dickhead, you can fit in here. It doesn't matter. And nothing else matters,
Exactly.
So
Yep.
another question I had around these guys for you.
Yeah.
Are they the best band to include a non-rock instrument? Has anyone done it better than them?
I mean, like I said, I consider Floggy Molly and Dropkick on the same level. I actually prefer Floggy Molly over Dropkick, in all honesty. And I think it's just because they have a little bit more of the folk influence. And during that time, like of growing up and listening to these bands, I actually was leaning more into the folk side of things than traditional punk music.
Okay.
So, if you're going to ask me who did it better, I'm saying Flogging Molly.
Okay.
But if you're going to just say Celtic music doing it, sure, I agree. Yeah.
So I'm fine going outside of Celtic music because Flogging Molly applies to that too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So what about like a Yellow Card?
With the violin,
What about some of these other bands like the Devil Wears Prada with a piano? Or
see, I think piano is well enough ingrained in music in
that
general
doesn't count.
that it doesn't count. Violin's a little bit more unique, and Yellow Card did it very well because they actually made the violin more punky than you know what I mean? Than
They made
any
a
other
violin
band.
not a nerd instrument, is what you're
Yeah.
saying. So,
No, exactly. Because like you get string music, you get string instruments in metal, but it's not a violin player up there ripping. You know what I mean? But this is also going to start bleeding into ska, right? Because if we're going to talk about outside music, we got to start talking about brass instruments and stuff like that.
Okay. I mean, so the thing with brass music though is that brass is going to have a longer history in this music because of like jazz.
Sure, that's true.
And even blues.
Sure.
Than something like a bagpipe or a violin or a cello or anything string.
Okay.
Oriented.
I see where you're going with it.
But that's a fair thing to say though about brass because it's true. I mean, I don't know. It's just something I thought of because it's like maybe and honestly though, like cool violin, cool. We've all heard of violin. Brass in it, cool. We've all heard brass, but like bagpipes, like unless it's like 4th of July parade and people are walking down playing. When do you ever hear bagpipes outside of like some of those like gospel songs,
Sure. I mean, obviously it started in the 90s, right? That's when Dropkick, that's when Flogging Molly, that's when these bands kind of started coming up and popping up. But it's becoming more relevant today. A very specific type of music, very specific genre of music that actually has it. But they've made it a thing. You know what I mean? So what's the next instrument? We talked about saxophone on one of the episodes. That's straight trash. All right. Don't put saxophone in metal music. Like, come on.
Yeah, I don't know, man. The story so far finished their Warped Tour set one year with a saxophone. What you're saying. And I was like, this is good. It was good, dude. It was good. It fit perfect, actually. Now that I'm thinking back on it, it fit perfect.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely some instruments that don't belong.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna put saxophone in there. So
okay, that's fair. All right, yeah. So Do or Die, 1998. The Gang's All Here, 1999. Sing Loud, Sing Proud, 2001, and The Warrior's Code.
I would Blackout too,
and Blackout. Okay.
Yep.
I think so. When I listen to Dropkick, I've kind of categorized them into 3 different genres.
Okay.
Punk, Celtic rock, or just like alternative rock.
Sure.
And then folk or Celtic folk. I guess we have to add Celtic on the beginning of all this. Would you
Sure.
agree with that? You have like their folk albums, their rock albums, and then their punk albums.
Yeah, for sure. I do think that they've always done a pretty good job of at least including some of that folk influence, some of that folk tradition on most of their albums and stuff like that. But like the true aggressive punk albums, I definitely think those first five that were on what label was it? Hellcat
Yeah.
Records.
Yep.
They were definitely way more aggressive, way more punk based, and what I think most people would have expected from like Dropkick Murphys.
Yeah. And I mean the songs that are referenced in like the Boston Red Sox, I think come off of these albums.
Yep.
Most of their popularity came especially later with like Blackout and the Warriors Code and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I was actually really shocked reading through some of their later albums really charted well. Like after The Departed came out and it had Shipping Off to Boston as that kind of intro song, they exploded in popularity. And so I was actually going to ask you before we get too far into this, but is there another band more closely associated to a city than Dropkick is to Boston?
I don't think so.
I came up
I
with a
mean,
couple,
okay, let's hear it.
and you tell me what you think, okay? So, and these are all scene related bands, okay? So this is just from our genre of music. I'm sure that there's rock
Yeah,
bands or other things like,
sure.
you know, I think like if you were to say Eminem in Detroit, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like
Okay.
that's close association. But from our scene, Every Time I Die in Buffalo.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
This one's kind of funny because they're right around the corner, but 4 Years Strong in Worcester, Massachusetts.
Yeah, but I don't really get the like. I don't really get them singing about Boston in every single song, every single album. You know.
That's true. I mean, they do sing a lot about Massachusetts. Like in their
Sure.
latest one, they had that line, if Massachusetts had a loyalty, I hope it wouldn't choose you over me kind of thing.
Yeah.
So like they're definitely Massachusetts proud.
Yeah.
And they're from Worcester. So A Day to Remember in Ocala. That's the next one that I got there. And then this one's an entire state, but Slipknot in Iowa. Because I mean, their albums named it,
Okay.
right?
One that you forgot, Hawthorne Heights, Ohio.
Ohio. Okay. Nope. Perfect.
Yeah.
Exactly. They just did their entire Is for Lovers
Is for Lovers.
tour.
Yeah.
But that's
Exactly.
all based off of Ohio Is for Lovers.
So Hawthorne Heights might be the only one that I think that could really give you a running, just because of the fact that like Ohio Is for Lovers is like
is known
is
at this
massive,
point.
right? Yeah. Every Time I Die is a really good call out that I don't think a lot of people would have thought of, but that's like spot on. But no, I still think Dropkick and Boston is like
It is the
you can't have
pinnacle.
one without the other.
Yeah, no, I sat there and I was reading articles and stuff like that, and they were talking about their backup singer, also bass player. His name's Kenny, right?
Uh-huh.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Or no, his last name's Kenny. I don't know, something like that. But they were walking out of a 300-person interview, and everyone's yelling at him, Kenny, Kenny. You know what I mean? And
You
like
talking about Ken Casey?
Ken Casey, that's the
Yeah.
guy. And he knows everyone. He himself is a Boston institution at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to this point, I mean, he owns restaurants now. He owns bars now. He was a boxing promoter at one point in time. Like he's done it all in Boston now, and he is Boston. Like Dropkick is Boston.
Yeah. Yep. I don't think this day and age you can think of either one without the other one. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I mean, they were on the Red Sox 2007 World Championship parade. They were on a float with them, playing shipping up to Boston. So for sure.
No, that's cool. So what out of like I guess their punk stuff, what was your favorite? What was your favorite album out of that or song or did you have something out of the punk phase that you liked the most?
You know, I was actually really surprised going back through it. Like I said, my initial connection to Dropkick Murphys was Blackout 2003. That's the first time I heard them. That was the first album that I listened to from them. Sing 'em loud or sing loud, sing proud. This is the first instance of what I'm going to dub as pirate rock on these guys because like it's Celtic influence, but dude, I'm telling you, go turn on the Disney Junior show, Jake and the Neverland Pirates, and tell me that it's not
It's not the
Dropkick
same.
Murphys who wrote that.
I think there might be some copyright infringement there doing that. So
No, for sure. But like you start to get like, I'm calling it pirate rock at this point, but just that really fast Celtic punk
yeah.
kind of stuff.
So
But Warriors Code, it's
Warriors
solid.
Code. Yeah. I have some very, very fond memories of their punk phase. I mean, I listened the crap out of all those albums. I remember going to shows, being a little kid, and just seeing how freaking aggressive and crazy their concerts were for bands like that. I mean, people weren't like hardcore dancing, but I probably got more banged up in those pits than I did a lot of the like really heavy bands that we saw. Just insane amount of energy, people up on stage, everyone jumping off, the just crazy guys in the pit throwing each other around. And it was just an absolute blast, man. Those shows were so much freaking fun. Got to give a call out to the Spicy McHaggis Jig. That's a great song.
Yeah.
But the Warriors Code is definitely it's my favorite Dropkick album, and it's definitely my favorite out of their punk phase. So
yeah, it's my favorite out of their punk phase. I'm Shipping Up to Boston is obviously the number one song, but then they also had what's the other popular song on that one?
The Warriors Code.
Yeah, that's it. The Warriors Code,
Yeah.
Which is about Mickey Ward, the boxer from Boston. And did you ever watch The Fighter with Christian Bell and Marky Mark?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's about him, you know? And so I thought that was pretty interesting. I didn't realize it was Mickey Ward on the album cover. So
okay. So my son loves the Warriors Code song.
Oh, okay.
We listen to that all the time, and he sings all the words to it. It's great.
Nice. Yeah. So that's a really good song. But Warriors Code is a super solid album. I'll be honest though, it's not my favorite album that they've put out. So
okay. Well, I'm sure we'll get there. So after the Warriors Code, you've got The Meanest of Times, Going Out in Style, Signed and Sealed in Blood, 11 Short Stories of Pain and Glory, and Turn Up That Dial. I would consider that their Celtic rock phase. It's not as punk, and it's not straight folk music like their most recent two albums are.
Yep.
How would you feel about that?
Completely agree with that. 2007, The Meanest of Times. This is a great album.
It is good, man. Holy cow.
It is a great album. And you can clearly hear the difference of being off the label at this point in time. So this is the first independently produced album that they put out. And it's softer, it's more folky, it's more just, you're right, it's Celtic rock.
It's just rock.
It's not Celtic punk.
Yeah.
So it's a really good album though. But 2013, Signed and Sealed in Blood. This one is another one that just, dude, these guys have been doing it since 98, and this comes out in 2013, and it just elevated them so much more.
Yeah.
Like, this is the album that I would probably put on the most often if I was to just go back and listen to Dropkick Murphys at this point in time.
Yeah.
Softer, easy to listen to, just good music.
Yeah. I would actually agree that, like, in my old age, that those albums, this Celtic rock phase that they go through is, I think, their like best music, like most like listenable music throughout the day. You know what I mean? Like if I'm pissed off and I would just want something fun and fast and cool and just like crazy, like I'll play the first albums and stuff. And again, the Warriors Code is my favorite album, but that's just straight nostalgia.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. But yeah, all these albums, like Signed and Sealed in Blood is amazing, but all of them, dude, Going Out in Style and 11 Short Stories of Pain have great songs on them. Great songs.
Yes.
And it's easy listening. It's
Exactly.
unique. It's fun. It still sounds like them. And we've gotten into this a bunch with a lot of these bands we've talked about that have like changed
Yeah.
so much. These guys have changed, but they've always sounded like Dropkick.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that this, though, is why I leaned on Flogging Molly more than I leaned on Dropkick, was because in 2004, that album from Flogging Molly is more closely aligned to what
That's
this
fair.
group of albums is. And it's what I like to listen to. Like, I tried to get my grandparents who were from England to listen to Flogging Molly. Like, I was like, "You'll love them. They're Irish, Grandma." And yeah, that didn't obviously go over well. But
Yeah, I bet.
this was super interesting because they are so big now. They're so popular. 2011, Going Out in Style. They had Bruce Springsteen on it. Like, how crazy is
Yeah.
that? 2009, they actually go up on stage with Bruce Springsteen, play songs with him. The next month, they go up on stage with Aerosmith, and they're playing with Aerosmith in Boston. Like, if a band goes to Boston, even a big rock band, they're bringing out Dropkick Murphys.
Exactly.
Again, they are Boston.
And what's cool though is, and we've talked about that with other bands again, is that like usually when this happens, they change.
Yeah.
They sell out, they play generic music, it gets boring, and we all lose interest. They didn't do that. Like, yeah, their music changed, but it's still Dropkick up there playing, which is crazy that like you get Aerosmith up there and then you get a bunch of like Irish tough guys from South Boston. I guess they're not Irish. Some South Boston tough guys up there playing like Celtic punk. It's sick.
Yeah.
It's way cool.
Yeah. No, completely agree with that. Did you listen to the last two albums?
I did listen to the last two albums. So This Machine Still Kills Fascists. So if you ever wondered, you know, if you didn't listen to their music and still wanted to know where they lined up politically, there's your answer.
Right.
And Okema Rising. So these are their two Celtic folk albums. What did you think about them?
The one album I didn't get to listen to was This Machine Still Kills Fascists. Okay. I did listen to Okema Rising. I don't think we're pronouncing that right, but that's probably how we're going to say it. I'm sure that there's
Okema. We're going to get stabbed.
Probably. Don't go to Boston. But it was good. I mean, I don't know. It's definitely folk music at this point in time. It's what they're playing if they go on tour with Mumford & Sons. Yeah, like, that's how I feel about it. You know what I mean?
Which, again, dude, okay, their start in 1998. I think they actually formed in 96. It's 2023. Yep. These dudes are old. Play folk music. It's the natural progression.
Right.
It's the 100%. Natural progression.
So. And I'm totally fine with it. Like, I had no problem with it. It wasn't like some of these other bands that we've talked about that are selling out. Now, that being said, it's a little bit of an easier transition into this style of music than it is like a metal band to transition. Because I'm going to tell you to change your name. Dropkick does not need to change their name, right? So, like, 100% agree with that. I liked it. I thought it was good. I'm going to go listen to This Machine Still Kills Fascists because I think that I did like Okema, whatever we're calling it, Rising well enough. But yeah, that's how I feel.
I totally agree. And honestly, I think it says a lot about you and I getting older.
Yeah.
Because I am naturally progressing into this kind of music too.
Yeah.
Like I can't
be honest though. I like this kind of music when I was 14.
Oh,
15.
I know.
You know what I mean? So
but it's like you get older and you like don't really care anymore. You're just like, I'm gonna listen to what sounds good. And honestly, this kind of folk music sounds good.
Yeah.
Because I have a hard time with like a lot of indie and folk music because it's just too freaking weird.
Yep.
Like some of the voices, the guys are singing like super weird, and it's like a bunch of reverb on the voice, and so I'm like, that's not me, you know.
Yeah.
But listen to this, it's like, nah, it's Dropkick Murphys, and they're playing folk, and I'm here for it.
Yeah.
You know.
I will say my one gripe is they're not very good singers. They're still punk band singers, you know what I mean? And so I wish there might be a little bit more melody, a little bit better vocals on it and stuff like that. That's my That's my pettiness.
I hear you say that, but you need to take a little stroll down the lane of folk punk.
I know. No, I know.
Like real to the definition genre folk punk, because those guys are terrible singers. It's probably because of all the meth and cocaine.
Yeah.
I don't think Dropkick has that problem, but folk punk in general, that music, dude, is just hearing some of those guys sing. It's like, yeah,
I know, but
be
there's
doing
the
this.
guys who can do it and they do it super well. You've got the City in Color, you know. You have
That's just
Rocky.
that. No, that's but that's just folk music. I'm talking like actual folk punk.
Give me
It's
a
different.
name.
It's different. All right,
Give me a name.
I don't listen to it because I
Well,
I
all
don't
right.
do enough. No, I don't do enough cocaine or heroin to listen to folk punk. So
Drop the effing punk then and just be folk. Like, just seek a little bit better, right? Like, you don't have to be punk in everything you do.
folk punk essentials. So Billy Bragg, Frank Turner.
I'd have to go listen to some of these.
Some of it, so like the Violent Femmes,
Okay.
which I think are going to run into the same issues as Dropkick. Like they're not singers; they're punk kids playing folk music.
Yeah, see, that's an interesting one though. I don't know why. I don't know why I differentiate the two. I really don't. And to be honest, this is probably because I think that the Flogging Molly vocalist is just that much better. Like he can sing really well. Like, and he's
Dude,
playing a similar style of
are
music.
they like giving you money or something right now? Like,
listen, man,
I feel like this is a Dropkick podcast for episode, and you're sitting here talking about Flogging Molly. I don't want to hear
it. You can't talk about Dropkick without talking about Flogging Molly. I don't care who you are, right? But unless you're from Boston, then you're probably trying to murder the Flogging Molly guys.
Are they? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think so. I'm just kidding. There's probably no gripe whatsoever between the two bands. But yeah, I don't know. Like, that's my opinion, right? Like, I wish that he could sing a little bit better. And from everything he's done, he does sound a lot better. You can't go listen to The Gang's All Here and then listen to Okema Rising and tell me that he hasn't become a better vocalist.
For sure.
He absolutely has, right?
Yeah.
So something to be said about it, but that's my gripe.
Yeah. Well, I got a lot of cool memories of them. They're, I mean, a huge influential band for me. You know, I had great times listening to them with my mom. She used to come to all those concerts with me.
Yep.
Just a fun band, you know, and influential, stuck to their guns with everything they believed in, didn't sell out, stayed true to who they were. And it's just good, solid music, man. So I have very, very, very fond memories of them, and I'm glad we got to talk about them because I still listen to them. You know,
I am very glad that this is a band you picked. Like, as much as I keep saying, you know, I listened to 12 hours of Dropkick, it was enjoyable. Like, I don't know if I could go through 12 hours again of it. It kind of thing. They'll probably be on my playlist going forward of like, I need to get back to listening to some Dropkick and some stuff like that.
Yeah, I will say that like there's these guys especially, it's just like sometimes I'll wake up and be like, I'm going to listen to Dropkick today.
Yeah.
Like they're just one of those bands. I don't know that I necessarily have them like on constant rotation, but there's tons of days where I get up and I'm like, I'm going to listen to Dropkick today.
It's a Dropkick day.
It's a Dropkick day, and it's great. So
yep. And my whole thing is like, I'm probably going to listen to a full song, not just 30 seconds of shipping off to Boston again.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
So, no, I liked it. Good pick. Good call out. We'll have to figure out what we're going to do next week, but
I don't know, but cool. Well, thanks for jumping on. Thanks everyone for listening. Let us know what your thoughts are on Dropkick, and
or Flogging Molly. I mean, we talked enough about
or Flogging Molly, I guess. Jeez, Dropkick Molly.
Maybe we'll just do Flogging Molly next week, and then I'll just go on a quest of that.
Yeah, but to be completely honest with you, I think I need a break from some of the
I'm with you.
rock music. So,
all right, man. Okay, we'll catch you later.
All right, see you, dude.